Chapter 11, King. The little prince is close to the asteroids 325, 326, 327, 328, 329 and 330. So he visits these asteroids first. He wants to be busy. He wants to learn something. There is a king on the first planet. The king has nice clothes. He is sitting on a big chair. "Ah! Here is a visitor," the king says when he sees the little prince. And the little prince thinks, how can he know who I am? He doesn't know me. "Come closer to me. I want to see you better," says the king. He is very proud that he is a king for somebody now. The little prince looks around. He needs a place where he can sit down. But the king's clothes are on the whole planet. So the little prince is standing. And because he is tired, he yawns. It is not good to yawn before a king, the king tells him. "You can't do it." "I can't stop it," says the little prince. "My journey is very long, and I am tired." "Then you have to yawn," says the king. "People usually don't yawn before me. It is very interesting." Yawn again. The little prince wants to yawn for the king. But he can't do it now. He says, "I am sorry. I can't yawn when you tell me to do it," says the little prince. The king is not happy because people must do what the king says. But, because he is a very good man, what he wants is reasonable. "Can I sit down?" the little prince asks. "I order you to sit down," the king says. And he pulls a piece of his clothes so that there is some space where the little prince can sit down. The little prince is thinking about one thing. The planet is very small. The king doesn't control much. "Can I ask you a question?" says the little prince. "I order you to ask me a question," the king says. "What do you control?" "I control everything," says the king. "Everything?" The king looks at his planet. Then he looks at the other planets, and all the stars. "Are you the king of all?" asks the little prince. "I am the king of all," says the king. He doesn't control only his planet. He is the king of all the universe. "And do the stars do what you want?" "Of course," says the king. "They do it fast. They do exactly what I want." Chapter 12, Mouse. The king's power is very interesting for the little prince. With such power, the little prince can watch many sunsets every day, not only 44, but 72, or 100, or 200 on the same day. And he can still sit in one place. At that moment he remembers his little planet, and he feels a little sad. He asks the king for something. "I want to see a sunset. Please, can you order the sun to go down?" If I order a general to fly from one flower to another like a butterfly, or to write a book, or to change into a seabird, and if the general doesn't do it, is it his mistake? Asks the king. "Your mistake," says the little prince. "Exactly. We must ask what others can do," the king continues. "The control has to be reasonable. If you order your people to jump into the sea, they can start a revolution. I can control because my control is reasonable." "And my sunset?" says the little prince, who never forgets a question when he asks it. "You can have your sunset. I can order it. But I have my rules. We must wait. You can have your sunset when the conditions are right." The little prince doesn't want to wait. "When are the conditions right for my sunset?" the little prince asks. "Wait," says the king, then he takes a big calendar. "This evening at 7:40. And you can see that everything is as I order." The little prince yawns. He is sad that the conditions are not right for his sunset. Then this planet starts to be boring for him. "I have nothing to do here," he says to the king. "I want to continue on my journey." "Don't go," says the king. He is happy because finally he is a king for somebody. "Don't go. You can be my minister." "Minister of what?" "Minister of justice." "But there is nobody here who I can judge." "You never know," says the king. "Maybe there is somebody here who we don't see." "But I can see all your planet," says the little prince. He looks at the planet again. There is nobody else on the planet. "You can judge you," says the king. "It is very difficult. It is more difficult than to judge other people. If you can do it, it is because you are really a clever man." "But if I want to judge me, I don't have to be here," says the little prince. "I can do it in other places too." "I believe," says the king, "that somewhere on my planet there is a mouse. I hear the mouse at night. You can judge the mouse. You can send the mouse to prison." I don't want to send the mouse to prison. Now I think that I can leave. No, says the king. The little prince is ready for his departure. But he doesn't want to make the old king sad, so he says, if you want to control me, you can give me a reasonable order. For example, you can tell me to leave now. I think that the conditions are right. The king says nothing. The little prince waits for a moment. Then he doesn't want to wait longer. And he starts to leave. You are my ambassador, the king shouts. Adults are very strange, the little prince thinks when he continues on his journey. Chapter 13, People. The little prince comes to the second planet. He sees another strange man. The man likes when people admire him. Another person who admires me, says the man when he sees the little prince. He believes that all people admire him. Good morning, says the little prince. You have a funny hat. I use this hat when I say good morning to people who come to visit me. But not many people visit me here. Really? Says the little prince. Really? Clap your hands, says the man. The little prince claps his hands. And the man touches his hat and he moves the hat a little. This is more fun than the visit to the king, the little prince thinks. The little prince claps his hands again and again. The man touches his hat again and again. After 5 minutes of this exercise, the little prince starts to be tired of this game. Do you only touch your hat? Or can you do something else? He asks. But the man doesn't hear him. This type of people never hear other people. They hear only when somebody admires them. Do you really admire me very much? He asks the little prince. What is admire? To admire is to believe that I'm the most handsome, the richest and the most intelligent man on the planet. But you are the only man on your planet. Yes, I know that I am the only man on this planet. But please admire me. I admire you, says the little prince, but I don't understand why it is so important to you. The little prince has nothing else to do on this planet. So he continues on his journey. Adults are very strange, he thinks when he is leaving this planet. When the little prince visits the next planet, he sees a man. This man drinks a lot. He is drunk. This is a very short visit. And it is a sad visit. What are you doing? He asks the drunk man. The drunk man sits before bottles. Some bottles are empty. Some bottles are full. I am drinking, says the drunk man. His face is not happy. Why are you drinking? The little prince asks. I want to forget, says the drunk man. To forget what? Asks the little prince. To forget that I feel horrible, says the drunk man. And he puts his head down. Why do you feel horrible? Asks the little prince. The little prince wants to help the drunk man. I feel horrible because I drink so much. I know that it is bad to drink so much, says the drunk man. Then he is quiet. The little prince leaves the planet. Adults are very, very strange, he thinks when he continues on his journey. Chapter 14, Businessman. The little prince visits the fourth planet. There is a businessman on this planet. He is very busy. He is so busy that he doesn't look at the little prince when the little prince comes. Good morning, says the little prince. Your cigarette is finished. 3 and 2 make 5. 5 and 7 make 12. 12 and 3 make 15. Hello. 15 and 7 make 22. 22 and 6 make 28. I have no time to light the cigarette again. 26 and 5 make 31. It is 501,622,731. 500 million what? Asks the little prince. Are you still here? 501 million. I don't remember. I have so much work to do. I'm a serious man. I don't want to lose my time with things which are not important. 2 and 5 make 7. 500 million what? Repeats the little prince. He wants the answer to his question. The businessman looks at the little prince. I am 54 years old. I don't like when somebody stops my work. It doesn't happen often. I remember only 3 times. The first time, 22 years ago. A bird falls on my table. The bird makes a horrible sound. And I make 4 mistakes in my calculation. The second time, 11 years ago, I have rheumatism. I don't have enough exercise. I don't have time for such activity. I'm a serious man. The third time is now. Where am I? 501 million. Million what? The businessman understands that if he wants to have peace, he has to answer this question. Millions of those little things which you sometimes see in the sky. Flies? No, not flies. Bees? No. The little golden things. Lazy people like them because they can dream when they look at them. But I am a serious man. I have no time to dream. Ah, stars? Yes, the stars. And what do you do with 500 million stars? 501,622,731. I'm a serious person. I need numbers which are correct. And what do you do with those stars? Nothing. I own them. You own the stars? Yes. But I know a king who. Kings don't own. They control. It is very different. And why is it good to own stars? When I own stars, I am rich. And why is it good to be rich? When I'm rich, then I can buy more stars if somebody discovers them. But how can you own the stars? It is simple. Who owns them? Asks the businessman. I don't know. Nobody. Then I own them because I am the first person who has this idea. Is it enough? Of course. When you find a diamond, it is your diamond. When you discover an island, it is your island. When you have a new idea, you patent it and it is your idea. Now I own the stars because I am the first person who has this idea. It is true, says the little prince. And what do you do with them? I look at them. I count them and I count them again, says the businessman. It is difficult. But I am a serious man. The little prince wants to know more. If I own a jacket, I can put the jacket on me and I can take it with me. If I own a flower, I can pick the flower and take the flower with me. But you can't pick the stars. No, but I can keep them in the bank. How can you do it? It is easy. I write the number of my stars on a little paper. And then I put the paper in the bank. And it is enough? It is enough, says the businessman. It is funny, thinks the little prince. But it is not very serious. The little prince says to the businessman, I own a flower. I give it water every day. I own 3 volcanoes. I clean the volcanoes every week. I also clean the volcano which isn't active. You never know. It is good for my volcanoes. It is good for my flower that I own her. I help my flower and I help my volcanoes. But you don't help the stars. The businessman opens his mouth but he can't find words. And the little prince leaves. The adults are very interesting, he thinks when he continues on his journey. Chapter 15, Lamp. The 5th planet is very interesting. It is a very small planet. There is only a lamp and a lamplighter on this planet. The little prince doesn't understand why there is a lamp and a lamplighter on the planet. There is enough light because the planet is under many stars. There are no other people on the planet who need a lamp. The little prince thinks, this man is strange. But he is less strange than the king, the businessman or the drunk man. His work makes the world more beautiful. When he turns on his lamp, it is like a new star in the sky, or a new flower. When he turns off his lamp, he sends the flower, or the star to sleep. It is a beautiful job. And because it is beautiful, it is a good job. When the little prince comes on the planet, he says to the lamplighter, good morning. Why do you turn on and turn off your lamp? It is an order, says the lamplighter. And he turns off the lamp. What is the order? The order is to turn on and turn off my lamp. Good evening. And he turns on his lamp again. But why do you do it so often? It is the order, says the lamplighter. I don't understand, says the little prince. It is simple, says the lamplighter. The order is the order. Good morning. And he turns off his lamp. Then he says, it is a terrible job now. I remember better days in the past. I turn off the lamp in the morning. In the evening I turn on the lamp again. I have all the day for me, and at night I can sleep. And is the order different now? The order is the same, says the lamplighter. It is the problem. Year by year the planet is turning faster and faster. And the order is still the same. Now the planet turns around every minute. And I have no time to sleep. I turn on and I turn off my lamp every minute. It is funny. Your day is only 1 minute long. It is not funny, says the lamplighter. Our conversation is already 1 month long. A month? Yes. 30 minutes. 30 days. Good evening. And he turns on his lamp again. The little prince watches the lamplighter. He likes more and more this man who follows the order. He wants to help his new friend. I can show you how you can stop your work. I always want to stop my work, says the lamplighter. The little prince continues, your planet is so small that you can walk around it in 3 long steps. You only have to walk more slowly. And you can always be in the sun. When you want to stop your work, only walk. And you never have to work again. How can this help me? Says the lamplighter. The one thing which I love in life is to sleep. Then you are not lucky, says the little prince. I am not lucky, says the lamplighter. Good morning. And he turns off his lamp. The little prince continues on his journey. He thinks, the other men, the king, the drunk man, the businessman can laugh at this lamplighter. But he is better than the other men. It is because he cares about something else, not only his things. This man can be my friend. But his planet is too small. There is no place for 2 people. The little prince doesn't want to say the real reason why he doesn't want to leave this planet. He doesn't want to leave because the planet has 1,440 sunsets every 24 hours. Chapter 16, Geographer. The 6th planet is bigger than the last planet. The little prince sees an old gentleman. The man writes big books. Oh, here comes an explorer, he says when he sees the little prince. The little prince sits down on the table. He is tired from traveling so long and so far. Where are you from? The old gentleman asks him. What is this big book? Asks the little prince. What are you doing here? I am a geographer, the old gentleman answers. What is a geographer? A geographer is somebody who knows where the seas are, and rivers, cities, mountains and deserts. It is very interesting, says the little prince. Finally here is a man who has a real job, he thinks. And he looks around at the geographer's planet. Your planet is very beautiful, he says. Does the planet have oceans? I can't say, says the geographer. Ah! The little prince is sad. And mountains? I can't say, says the geographer. And cities and rivers and deserts? I can't tell you, says the geographer. But you are a geographer. It is true, says the geographer, but I am not an explorer. There is no explorer on my planet. The geographer doesn't discover cities, rivers, mountains, seas, oceans and deserts. The geographer doesn't have time for traveling. He doesn't leave his office. But the explorers visit him in his office. He asks some questions and he writes what they remember. And if the information is interesting to him, then the geographer has to ask more questions about the explorer. He has to know if the explorer is a good person. The little prince wants to know why the explorer has to be a good person. The geographer says, an explorer who is a bad person can give information which is not correct. And also an explorer who drinks very much can give bad information. Why? Asks the little prince. Because drunk people don't see correctly. Then the geographer can draw 2 mountains in a place where there is only one. I know somebody, says the little prince, who drinks a lot. He can be a bad explorer. It is possible. So when the explorer is a good person, then I have to check if his information is correct. Do you visit the place? No. It is too complicated. But the explorer has to give me proof. For example, if he knows about a big mountain, the explorer has to bring some stone from the mountain. Then the geographer smiles. But you come from very far. You're an explorer. You must tell me about your planet. The geographer opens his big book. He prepares his pen. Tell me about your home, says the geographer. Oh, where I live, says the little prince, it is not very interesting. It is very small. I have 3 volcanoes. 2 volcanoes are active, and 1 volcano isn't active. But you never know. You never know, says the geographer. I also have a flower. We don't write about flowers, says the geographer. Why not? The flower is the most beautiful thing on my planet. Because flowers don't live very long. In geography we have very correct books. Our books are almost always true. A mountain usually doesn't change its position. An ocean usually doesn't lose its water. We write about things which are here for a long time. But volcanoes which are inactive can be active again, says the little prince. If volcanoes are active or not, it is the same for us, says the geographer. A volcano is a mountain. It is important. A mountain doesn't change. Your flower is different. Your flower can be gone soon. My flower can be gone soon? Of course. My flower can be gone soon, thinks the little prince, and she has only 4 thorns for protection. And she is home alone. The little prince is sad. But he wants to continue on his journey. What is an interesting place to visit? He asks. The planet Earth, the geographer answers. It is a nice planet. And the little prince continues on his way. He is still thinking about his flower.